Hi there, welcome along to another Blues Zoom. Very timely, as you might imagine, because all things change at St Andrews. The revolving door opens for whom after Wayne Rooney's departure. Delighted today to be joined by a good pal of mine for a number of years, Alan Myers, who is a news editor at Sky Sports, also former director of comms at Blackburn Rovers, who certain manager used to be at, and also head of comms at Everton, knows his way around football, knows a lot of people in the game, and knows Tony Mowbray, who's the name on everyone's lips at the moment, with white smoke expected fairly soon, I think, on the future manager of Birmingham City Football Club. So how are you, Al? You okay?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris. Thanks. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, you too.
Remembering all those days in far-flung places when we used to run around after England and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it was good fun.
I do remember a legendary night at Blackburn v Blues a few years ago.
Yes,
remember that on a cold night, and you were on the phone to
yes.
the Venkies when the
Yes.
Venkies were running Blackburn Rovers, and I was sitting there very entertained by the conversations you were having with the owners who were watching the game or listening to the game on the phone when you were having to tell them what was going on and all the rest of that. Remember?
But believe me, people say to me, because of my association with Everton for many, many years, people say to me, "You're going to write a book about Everton." I'll tell you, the best book would be the 2 years I spent at Blackburn. It would be much more enjoyable. I promise you.
Yeah, I've told you before to write a book. You got some brilliant stories. We won't go into them now, but there's some very funny stories. Alan Myers knows a thing or two about the workings of football clubs. So when Wayne went, you sent me a text a few days ago, Al, and said, first thing I'll be doing is getting straight on the phone to Tony Mowbray. Why did you think that?
Well, I actually put it on my social media thing, as well. And I'll tell you the reason. There are a number of reasons why I would do that. Is because I look at Birmingham and obviously, the clubs. I've always had a great affection for Birmingham. I've loved going there.
Good man.
In the times I've gone there, but I look at where they are at the moment and the situation, and there are some similarities actually to the fact that new owners have taken over. That they've not had great times, and there needs to be a turnaround. And I think this period of when new owners come in, and so many clubs get it wrong, and so many owners get it wrong. And I sort of get the need to bring in a big name and wanting to make a statement and all the rest of it. I get that, I understand that, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. Far from it. A lot of the time, it guarantees you failure. But what I like about Tony Mowbray and why I'd go and get him and bring him in, as it looks like, as you suggested, the Birmingham owners are going to, is because he brings a number of things to the table. One of them is a real stability in management, which is what, as a new owner coming into the game, you really need. You don't always know that, but you do need it. And what I like about him is, things like, when he spends money like it's his own. He will be careful with what he spends, and
that going to have to be.
Yeah, of course, but also, he will go and make sure he brings value for money. If you look at the signings he made at Blackburn in particular, he brought in real good signings and made some money. People like Ben Brereton Diaz and Bradley Dack and a number of players like that, who have gone on. The goalkeeper, who's gone to Luton now, Kaminski. A number of players that he's brought in. And again, this is another thing that in the position I think Birmingham are in at the moment, is what is needed. I want to say, I don't mean they're in a bad position, although, it could be better. But what I mean is in the position where they are in the league, where they are, in the whole club, outlook of the club. They need someone who is going to care for the club, I think. And I think Tony Mowbray, out of all the managers I've ever worked with, really, really cares for the club the most I've ever seen.
It always strikes me, Al, as being a real salt of the earth type. A lot of integrity.
Yeah.
Kind of avuncular kind of figure who would be good with. And I was kind of hoping that they might bring in someone like, and I put this on social media, that somebody like Mowbray with a younger one as well. So that
Yeah,
guy Will Still, who's been doing really well
yeah,
around Reims in France, or Anthony Barry, the guy who went to the ex-Chelsea guy who went to Bayern Munich with Thomas Tuchel, someone like that. They can work together. But I mean, I think the good thing about Mowbray is and this is very important for the ownership, and this is this no fear football front foot stuff that Rooney came in with players who really couldn't do it very well and certainly couldn't defend. That he does that. He's quite a progressive. I mean, he's a forward-thinking manager, right? Front foot stuff.
Yeah, he's a lot more forward-thinking than people give him credit for. He plays good football. He plays, attractive football that you can enjoy. He likes wingers, and the impression you get of Tony Mowbray, and rightly or wrongly, is someone who's not that glamorous. He's not a showy manager. He'll say it how it is. He doesn't get too overexcited when he wins, and he doesn't get too down when. I remember him saying that to me a number of times when I interviewed him a few times. And I think that's great. What Birmingham need at the moment is that calm. Is that what are the real issues at the club? What do we need to sort out? And I think I saw that in abundance when he was at Blackburn Rovers. He looks at everything in the club, but he's calm. He makes decisions which are right. He won't rush into something. And I think all those qualities make him ideal for where Birmingham are. Is he someone that you'd want to take into the Premier League? Possibly not. If you get to the Premier League, in the next few years, say, and then maybe you want to push on, and I don't know. I've never seen him really in that guise. But what I would say is that for someone who will do the right things and do exactly what's needed now in where, because Blackburn were in that very similar situation. I mean, Mowbray took over late in the season when it looked like it was all lost. I mean, it was ultimately, but Owen Coyle had a bad season there. I mean, that was reasonably predictable. An ex-Burnley manager coming into Blackburn. It was always going. It's like Rafa Benitez coming in at Everton. It was always going to be a problem. But they was never going to have a honeymoon. I think they got beat 4-1 or something on the first day of the season with Owen Coyle by Norwich, and that was his honeymoon over. But what Mowbray did was he spoke to people in a good way. He included everybody. Had a really good culture around the place. Everybody was included. And to go through a point that you made before, he's very wholesome, and he's very sort of do the right thing and be respectful to everybody. You know.
One thing I've noticed, Al, and I mean, Blues fans can be a bit demanding, shall we say?
Well,
I mean, you've seen the sort of toxicity. We'll talk about Rooney in a minute, but you've seen how toxic it can get at that club. Some will say, that Mowbray's not a kind of sexy enough figure. You said yourself there that maybe he's not the guy to get them to the Premier League. I mean, the owners, Tom Wagner, and obviously Tom Brady and all those people beyond that, and Gary Cook, who is involved very much in the Rooney hiring. They want a certain style of football, and they want an end game, which is to get to the Premier League.
No, I think.
You know him. Is he? Yeah, I mean, am I being unfair there? That it's not
listen, I think he could get them to the Premier League. What I was saying was, once you get into the Premier League, I think taking it on then, maybe then you're looking for a manager who's done that before, and maybe a bigger name in that respect, if you pardon the expression. But I think he's very capable. I mean, he did it with West Brom. He's very capable of getting a team up, and he's come close. When you look at, I mean, I know the troubles he had at Blackburn, behind the scenes, and the struggles he had, and he stayed so professional. He stayed so calm, and he did the right thing, as I say, and he was doing the right thing, I think, at Sunderland as well. When listen, I have no allegiance to Tony Mowbray at all. I see what I see, and I'm very much somebody who likes to see real football people, get a chance and do what they do, and that's what Tony Mowbray is for me. Is a real football person.
What did you think of the Sunderland departure? Was a strange one, wasn't it? I mean, they were sort of ninth at the time. Now there's a bit of sort of synergy, if you like, here, because I don't know if you know the setup at Sunderland, but Christian Speakman, who used to be at Birmingham, he was
Oh, okay.
in charge of the academy and going through, and he had designs on being a sporting director, and that's exactly what he is now at Sunderland. And he was the man who made all the quotes when Mowbray left. And of course, Joe Bellingham went up there because of the connections from the ex-academy at Blues. I mean, he's saying, this is a quote, right, from Sunderland when he left, 3-4 weeks ago now. They were doing pretty well, and people thought, well, why has that happened? Christian Speakman saying, all at Sunderland have thoroughly enjoyed working with Tony. He's quite rightly held in high regard by our players and staff and our supporters. After arriving at an uncertain time, he helped guide us to the playoffs, which was brilliant last season. They could have easily beaten Luton in the semi-final. They won the first leg, didn't they? And then lost the second, didn't make it. But they could have.
When you take into account the injuries they had, by the way, massive injuries they had.
So that's acknowledged by Speakman. And then he says, this was a difficult decision to make, but we remain loyal to our ambitions and our strategy at Sunderland. What was that then? I know they've sort of got this thing about kids. But isn't that one of Mowbray's things that he's good with kids?
He is, yeah. He brought a number of younger players through at Blackburn, I remember. But I think there's that old famous saying, isn't it? Everybody has a plan and a strategy until they get punched in the face. And I think plans and strategies are great. And I don't know, I don't know much about Sunderland. I'll be honest with you. I think it's a great club, obviously, and they have high ambitions. But sometimes in football, you don't always get to realise your ambitions. You have to take it in stages. And I think, I think it's sensible at when you are a new owner, when you're coming in. And we've seen it at so many clubs around. When new owners come in, they they bring in big name. They want to make a splash with the fans, and I get that. I understand it. But it's not always the right way to go. And I think, as I say, I look at the thing I like most about Tony Mowbray is he will bring care for the club, and I'm not suggesting Rooney didn't have that. Of course he would have done, but Tony has a real care for the people he works for, and he doesn't, but one of his problems is that because he doesn't feed the usual media guff, that a lot of managers do, and he doesn't always say the right thing because it's the right thing to say, I think that's where sort of he sometimes loses people, but he will only ever give it to you straight. He'll only. I think you said it to me before. You get what you see with him, and that's it. But you look at his record, and he's actually got a very good record.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list now. So started at Ipswich, caretaker 2002. Hibs, he was there for a couple of years. Early job for him. West Brom got him promoted, then got relegated. I just find what happened in that season. I know it's always difficult when you go up, isn't it? And if you play too much football when you're not quite ready against better teams, you always get turned over, don't you? That kind of, when you need to, like Burnley are discovering fantastic last season, went up. Now all of a sudden, crikey, it's a bit harder when you're playing really good teams. And Celtic, I mean, 2009, 2010, he was at Celtic, but I mean, that was the period, wasn't it, when Rangers were still top, and just before Celtic started winning again. And Rangers had all their troubles. So, I mean, one season there. I mean, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy, would you? Really, when you're not.
No, but he gets a lot of credit. A lot of Celtic fans have a high regard for him as well. Still, I speak to a lot of Celtic fans, and they have quite a high regard, and everywhere he goes, I think he has that. I think you see a lot of Sunderland fans talking well about him. You'll see a lot of Blackburn fans. I mean, I've seen Blackburn fans asking to get him back, in the last couple of weeks.
Have you? Yeah. Well, you know him very well up there, don't you? That's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, Borough, Borough 2010, 2013, Borough, they got 7th one season, didn't they? Sort of. Yeah. Coventry for one season, when they were in the 3rd division, wasn't it? And I think he kept them up. And then, which is really interesting that the following season, he resigned. The following season. How many managers do you know that resign? I talk about integrity. There are very few managers that do that, are there? And
absolutely.
He did that when they were.
He has it. Yeah, he has it. There's no two ways about it. Like I say, is he one for the future, and where probably Tom Brady and can't think of the other guy's name.
Tom Wagner,
who's the owner?
Tom Wagner.
Tom Wagner. Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't think. And it's where they want to go to. I sort of get, and as a Birmingham fan, or in my case as an Everton fan, or whatever, you want that ambition. You want to be hearing your owners talking like that, but it has to be done, as I say, in steps, I think. And you try to go too quickly, to one place, and it won't work, because football doesn't allow you to do that. It's, you've seen it around. I've seen it, in all the years we've been working in it.
And Blackburn, he came in at Blackburn, didn't he, when they were struggling, and he came in, I think, at the February of the season. They got relegated, but then came straight back the following year. Not that Blues are going to be in League One next season. A lot of people have been saying to me, "Oh, listen, we're in such a mess that it's going to be relegation this season." Fighting. I don't think so. I mean, the squad is far too good for that, and I think it'll be upwards from here. As you saw with Sunderland, I mean, he took him to the playoffs last year and shouldn't have got sacked this year. I mean, the Speakman thing, I have no idea what's going on up there, but listen, he sounds like I mean, you're obviously a fan. If you don't mind, Al, I mean, what as an outsider, you're an Evertonian, you've known Rooney for yonks as well. What did you make of that whole thing?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? He will have wanted to do well. I think there was a part of his statement which says, 13 weeks wasn't enough, and of course it's not. It isn't enough for any manager to do it. The problem is that you wanted to see more in those 13 weeks than what I think the Birmingham fans seen. And I think the problem with things like this situation is that you go into a downward spiral in a football club, and it's really, really difficult to stop that, and I think that's where the problem comes in then. It's self-gathering, isn't it? A downward spiral like that.
Yeah, listen, well, the fans turned at Leeds last week,
exactly.
And once that happened,
and things all started. Yeah,
the owners know.
All start to clump onto the side, and it gathers momentum, and all of a sudden, if you're not careful, you're out of the league, and you've got bigger problems than you ever wanted. So I can understand the decision making, but this goes back to the appointment in the sense, is what were they expecting, and a manager needs time, whoever he is, to bring that in, but I think, maybe, Wayne is a young manager, relatively young manager, who wants to do it his way and wants to do it, and has his ideas, and don't forget, he's come from the very top of football as a player, so he will have, and you see this with a lot of ex-pro, great players. There's not a lot of great players who make great managers, to be fair. If you look around, some of the great managers, the
golden generation.
They just don't make. They just don't make the good managers.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I mean, I from the very start, I'll put my hands up here. I mean, I just thought that he didn't really. I mean, I just thought it was all too easy. I don't think he really wanted it. I didn't really needed it. And there's been all kinds of rumours that he was very hands off in training.
I saw that.
Didn't watch the opposition, stuff like that. I mean,
that surprised me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought Wayne, if that's true, I would have thought Wayne would be quite the opposite to that. I thought I would, the Wayne Rooney I've always seen is someone who he wants to be involved in everything, and that would be odd if he wasn't. But no, look, I mean, he will have wanted the best. He will have wanted to be successful. But these things happen, and football, the one thing about him, he will know, and he will have understood why the decision probably had to be made. Because, as I say to you, the worst thing in football is a downward spiral, and Birmingham were in one. There's no two ways about that. You can't hide from the fact.
He's not happy. I mean, you probably saw the stuff on his son Kai, who was following everybody at the club when just before his dad came, and now he's been sort of saying the players are X-rated, But
we'll all fight for our dads, won't we? Let's be honest.
Yeah, but listen, that was ill thought out, in my opinion. But you can't really come and play great football with. I mean, do you think Mowbray? I mean, to me, I mean, I hear him better than I do, but I mean, he does sort his defence out and then plays. So he's got the best of both. It's the key to the universe, that, isn't it? Being able to get everyone starts with a good solid back line, and then also be offensive. But so often it's either one or the other. Rooney couldn't, they couldn't defend to save their lives, which begs the question: what was John O'Shea and Ashley Cole doing? Ashley Cole's still there at the moment. We'll see what happens with that. But I think Mark Venus is number
Mark
2, isn't
Venus,
he? But
yeah,
do you know much about him?
He comes along with, he's very much, he's very much involved in the, as you would imagine, in the tactics and the way they play, and I think they are. You're right. They do look at the defence quite strongly, and they because of course, Mowbray was a great centre half, wasn't he?
Was,
he was a real solid, strong centre half. And so they understand it, and he brought some really good centre halves and some good defenders to the club. I mean, the likes of Amari Bell, that people questioned at the time, now playing in the Premier League.
Well, he was at Birmingham. Amari Bell was.
That's right, he was. Yeah,
we got so many great kids who've gone elsewhere and done things.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, so he knows a player. I mean, if you look back at his, there weren't too many disasters, I don't think, for him at Blackburn in that respect. And I don't know about Sunderland was a difficult one because as I say, I think he had. I mean, in all these Championship clubs, apart from maybe one or two, the budgets are tight, aren't they? You can't. You're not going to be splashing the cash these days.
Well,
I don't think.
And part of the reason why Rooney went, because if the customers turn and you rely on the income to get the income to satisfy FFP,
exactly.
then what do you do? I mean, and that's where if the fans turn, the manager has to go, and I'm sure Tony Mowbray knows that too.
Once the fans go, I mean, we've seen that at Everton, my club, over the last 7 years or so. I mean, we've seen the fans turn on a few. When I say turn on him, I mean they lose faith in the manager, and that's it. And once, as you say, I mean, there was a couple that they lost faith before they joined. But when that happens, the writing's on the wall, isn't it? You can't go along with that because the whole atmosphere in the ground, you're not going to win a game in that respect. It's as simple as that. So, but you look at the league, and the Championship is a great league for turning things around quickly. So in 4 weeks' time, it could look very, very different. To what it does today. That's for sure. For any team.
Yeah, and using your crystal ball, I mean, you're Everton are safe-ish, but you're looking down a division.
Well,
how do you think Tony will get on? I mean, his record is win percentages. I don't know how much store you hold on that, but I think his is overall is higher than any Blues manager for a long time. 41%, I think.
I was going to say he's in the early 40s.
Yeah, which is very good, isn't it?
I thought it was 43, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, maybe just a bit below that. But I mean, he's even at Sunderland, he was sort of mid 30s, I think.
He's he will bring you a certain amount of guarantee, if you like, for want of a better word. He will. I mean, when he came into Blackburn were only going one way. Believe me,
just after you left, wasn't it?
It was just after I left. Yeah, I left. I didn't like what was going on at the club. When I say, and I don't mean anything, bad. But I didn't like the way they were looking to the future. I could see what was going to happen. I could see that the investment in players had sort of finished. Really, it dried up, and you could see the struggles that they were going to have. So I my whole outlook on it is, if I can't be helpful, and do a job which can do good, I shouldn't be there. So that's why I resigned. But you could just feel that it wasn't great. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I think the Venky's made our Chinese owners. Some of the stories I heard from you.
Yeah, but honestly, you know what? They put millions and millions of pounds into that club. Like, I'm talking a lot of money into that club. They're well over 160, 170 million pounds they put into that club. And it's got them really nowhere. But again, that that all started. They still sort of trying to get back from the early days of their ownership, and those early days of ownership are so crucial that you get it right and you get people that you can trust.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
they've got the sort of ambition that the Knighthead who run Blues now have got.
Yeah.
I mean, and they've got it very right off the field, but just on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have
You know,
the.
in a football
You
club,
remember Gary Cook, don't you? You remember Gary
I
Cook
do.
from
Yeah, I remember Gary from Man City. Yeah. He knows his stuff. He's been around a long time. Gary, he knows his stuff. But I remember, I've seen it in a number of clubs. I saw it when Hicks and Gillette came into Liverpool. There was a sense of it at Everton when Farhad Moshiri took over. And what happens is when you have an owner that's sort of not there every day, if you like, which there aren't many like that now. But you've got to get your responsibilities right, I think. And because if you don't get your responsibilities right, you don't get your accountability right. And then what happens when you don't have accountability is you get opportunists, and you get a certain culture which is not conducive to success. And so you've got to have those things in place. And I don't know about Birmingham. I don't know how it's run, but that's the crucial thing for any new owner. And I think that's where, for me, that's where Tony Mowbray comes in, in a way, because he takes responsibility, and he will be accountable, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, he fits the bill.
You've got to have a good reporting thing. You've got to have a great relationship between. I don't know, is Gary CEO or is he?
He's CEO, yeah. But
so
he's
you
got a little bit of criticism over the Rooney thing because obviously he knows him and through the agent as well, Paul Stretford, who's been around the block. So. But it is backfired, and he's gone. And you wonder whether it was the ownership who leaned on Gary, say, look, he wanted to keep him. I think that was the
decisions are always difficult, when you're not making them. Always easy when you're not making them, And they you have to go and no one, if Wayne had come in and been successful, and everyone would have been lauding,
it's all business. We know it.
That's right. It can go either way, and But as I say, for me, I just think at this particular moment in time, a manager like Tony Mowbray or Tony Mowbray, is exactly what the club needs, just to ease them into the the world of football. And Gary knows football as much as anybody. He's been around, he's been to big clubs, and so he knows it. But it would be a massive help to him if he has someone like Tony Mowbray, I think, as well, who knows the game, knows to be steady, and to do things in a controlled way, and that's what you need. And what he'll do, he'll always have the players on his side. He had a great rapport with his players at Blackburn, from what I could see. I mean, I wasn't in there, but I spoke to people who were, but yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a really tough time when new owners come in, and I mean, Venky's, we're all over the place in the first couple of years. I mean, it was,
I'll tell you what, Al, you can stop me if you want, but give the Paris Hilton story very quickly.
Yeah, well,
go on. This is worth it.
That was I'd been over to India for a couple of meetings. They used to just call me over to go for an India, and I went, and then I got back to Manchester, and anyone who knows, it's sort of like a 10-hour flight sort of thing, and so I get back to Manchester. My wife was working, so I said, right, I'll go to the office, and I'll I'll go home a bit later when my wife's home, so I go in the office, sat down, and then the phone rang, and it was one of the owners, Bally, and he said, can you come to India? So I said, I'm thinking, I've just got off a plane, So I said, I've just been to India. He said, yeah, I need you to come back. So I had to go home, throw a few more underwear, a bit of new underwear in the case. I'm back up to Manchester Airport to go. Can you pick, meet a friend of mine, a guest of ours who's going to come to India to a party. They have a party it's on Bala's birthday, early December, and then they have one at New Year's Eve. A massive party, one of the biggest parties in India. Actually, it's fantastic. And so I said, yeah, okay. So I had to meet this person in Dubai, and I'm thinking, on the way to Mumbai. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't know who this is. They won't tell you. You never ask questions. You just had to do what they told you, you know. So I get to Dubai Airport and I go, and I still don't know who it is. And met with one of the little guys from Venky's, you know, and he said, "Oh yes, we have to wait for Madam," you know. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know who Madam is, you know. So next minute, so I'm waiting there by you know, so I'm on this golf buggy thing, you know, in the airport. And next minute, I hear all these cameras clicking, you know, and I'm thinking, who's this, you know? So anyway, and it was Paris Hilton. So I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, what do I say? I don't know what I said to her, or you know. So I'm next minute, I'm on the back of a golf buggy with Paris Hilton driving through Dubai Airport, you know. So then we flew then to. She was in first class. I must, you know, tell you, I wasn't. But you know, we flew to Mumbai, and then we had this journey to 3 hours to Pune, and she DJ'd at his party, and basically I think she did 2 lines, which was you know, "What's up, India?" and get in there, India, or something like that, you know. And that was it. That was her job. And she'd flown from Houston, Texas, to do that, you know. But
And probably got
there was
paid
so
a
many
fortune to
bizarre
do it as
moments.
well, and then flew back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Incredible.
absolutely.
The
You
crazy
know,
world of the Venkies. I mean, the Blues
yeah.
ownership. I mean, they've probably got a bit of money, but I mean, not as crazy as that, which is a great story. And there's some others as well, which have really made me.
Oh, yeah, believe me, you know, it was an interesting time, that's for sure, Chris.
Yeah.
That's for definite.
Listen, mate, absolutely brilliant to speak to you. Thanks ever so much for your
No
insights
problem.
on Tony Mowbray.
Yeah,
Not that that's not confirmed yet, but it's looking the white
no,
smoke we're expecting soon, and
yeah.
it's
Well, listen,
onwards and
as
upwards.
I said before, you know, at the top, you know, I loved going to St Andrews. I've been many times, and I remember doing a filming there with Everton one night. You know, about how much it cost.
I remember seeing that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, how much it cost to. And we got some stick, you know, from the Birmingham fans that night. And you battered us 3-0. Who was the
Oh
winger
yeah.
you had? Can't think of the guy's name now.
Stan Lazaridis, wasn't it?
Lazaridis, yeah,
Yeah,
scored
yeah,
2, I think, that
yeah,
night. It was brilliant. I mean, Birmingham were brilliant
yeah,
that
yeah.
night, you know. But yeah, so great times. Loved the club, and of course, you gave me my all-time hero, Bob Latchford, and that's all
Oh
that
yeah, I was going to
matters.
say that's the only thing we can't forgive you for. I was at school when I remember when Bob left and you gave us Archie
Archie
Styles.
Styles,
Thanks for
that's
that,
right.
Archie
Well,
Styles
hey,
and
listen,
and Howard Kendall, who was great by the way, and he got us
yeah,
promoted. But you
yeah.
know, I mean, but yeah, Bob was brilliant, and
Bob was
that's
great,
the
yeah.
connection. And Bob looks younger now than he did when he was at
He
school.
does. You're
Incredible,
right.
you
Yeah,
know.
he was.
So
And
hopefully.
Paul Holmes. Let's not forget Paul Holmes as well. You know.
So we'll probably age Tony Mowbray by about 3 times, you know, his real age in the next 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But listen, man, I've got to go because we're running out of time here. So
No
fantastic
problem.
to speak.
And you,
We look
Chris.
forward to playing you in the cup. We got to get past Hull first, but
Yeah,
and then you know Everton v Blues would be nice, wouldn't it?
we'll
Or the
take
other way
that.
around.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Great to speak,
Cheers,
Al.
Chris.
Take care.
Thanks,
Happy New
mate.
Year, pal. Cheers.
And you.